Hello, my name is Laura, and this is the 12th episode of my knitting podcast. Today I have one finished object, 3 works in progress, and like 5 acquisitions. This is the Christmas episode, and I did mostly ask for knitting related things for Christmas, so I will share everything that I got at the end of this video. Also, you might notice that I'm sitting in a new but kind of old place. I am sitting on the floor of my art room because I really wanted to show off the new bookshelves that I got. This was an early Christmas gift to myself because I didn't want to wait. And so these are the Billy bookshelves from IKEA. It's like the short ones. And yeah, they're just really nice. And so I wanted to sit in front of them like I used to sit in front of a different shelf thing that I built. Anyway, I just thought it'd be fun to shake it up. There's also something very nice about just like sitting on the floor whenever I film these things because I like to set everything like in an arch in front of me, and so it's a little easier to grab everything rather than when I'm sitting in a chair, and I still like to have everything on the floor in front of me. So anyway, it's a little easier to grab things from here. And I will also talk about some of the things that are on the shelf. Spoiler alert, some of these were Christmas acquisitions, so I'll get to that at the end of the video. You will also probably notice that I am not wearing any knitwear today, and that's because I wanted to wear this hoodie that my husband got me for Christmas. He got this at Sam's Club, which I don't know if this is like the same everywhere, but in the town that has our Sam's Club, there's also a Costco like super close, and so you're either like a Sam's Club family or a Costco family, and we ended up going with Sam's Club because a couple of years ago we pre-ordered movie tickets online and it just came with a free Sam's Club membership, or maybe like a heavily discounted membership, and so we've just kind of renewed it every year. So anyway, that's the only reason why we are a Sam's Club folk as opposed to Costco. And anyway, he likes to go there and spend a lot of money every now and then. So he happened to pick this up when he was there by himself a little bit ago. And it wasn't that expensive, but anyway, I just thought it was sweet. And he also said, whenever I opened it on Christmas Day, he was like, I thought this color would look good on you. And I'm like, you know what? Thank you. I feel like it does. Like, blue is one of those colors that I absolutely love, like especially baby blues and light blues like this, but I just never wear them. And so I don't know, I thought it was really sweet that he would think of me in that way and just picked this up purely because he was thinking about me. So anyway, so this is also kind of a way for me to maybe look back at the footage too and see if I really do like this color on me. And then, I don't know, maybe I'll knit something in this light baby blue later on. And you know, this is also my little sister's absolute favorite color, and we look very similar, so I can't believe I've never considered that this could also look good on me. So anyway, just wanted to wear this for that reason. And also, it's just really soft and comfortable. And I'm also wearing Harry Potter pajama pants too, so it's just a cozy after Christmas episode. Okay, getting into the knits. The first finished object that I have was my mom's Christmas sweater that I knit for her. And I started this like all the way back in August or something like that, and I've just been working on it for a while. But I no longer have it with me because I did give it to her for Christmas and she really, really loved it. She even called me back the next day just to tell me thank you again, which I thought was so sweet. But I am going to hand it off to Laura from a few days ago to talk about that sweater. And I will also throw in a little disclaimer here that I filmed this after my family's like Christmas Eve party, and I had some of the Jolly Juice at the party, so I have not watched this footage yet, and I don't know if I'm coherent throughout it. I mean, like I didn't have that much, you know, but I was also like a little tired, and it was a good party. Okay, we had a really good time. So I hope it's helpful. I hope it's coherent. I will definitely throw in a lot of B-roll if I'm not making any sense. So anyway, I am going to throw it back to Laura from Christmas Eve. Okay, so it is now 9 p.m. on Christmas Eve, so this is my last opportunity to talk about my mom's Christmas sweater before I have to give it to her tomorrow. And that Christmas sweater is the Monday sweater by PetiteKnit, and here's what it looks like. I'm so happy with how it turned out. Dear God, this took forever. So I'm just so happy to have it done. I wove in all of the ends last night. And honestly, my neck hurts a little bit today because I was like hunched over weaving this in. I didn't have good posture for that. But it's fine, it's worth it, it's done. I'm very excited. So I ended up knitting, well, I started knitting this in a size extra large, but then when it came time to, try it on to see if it fit, I had my sister try it on because she and my mom are a similar size. And I ended up knitting the yoke to a 2XL size because just a little more depth in the underarm, my sister thought would be more comfortable. So this is like an extra large 2XL hybrid as far as the stitch counts go. And my gauge is tighter than the pattern gauge, but I haven't measured. I measured this, and the width of the body, like when you lay it flat, this is 60 centimeters, and I haven't checked the pattern to see which size that fits into. But anyway, that is the sweater. And there's really not much to talk about with the pattern itself. This is the third time I've knit the Monday sweater. 2 before have been for myself, and now this one is for my mom. So there's really not much to say about the pattern. It's really awesome. It's a PetiteKnit pattern, super easy to follow, super straightforward, and honestly, I love the fit of the 2 Monday sweaters that I've made for myself. So I'm really hoping that my mom loves the fit of this. So the pattern's awesome. Not really much to say on that, but what I really, really wanted to talk about is the yarn. So I have my little notebook in front of me. The yarn for this, I knit this using 1 strand of Knitting for Olive Merino in the color Dusty Dove Blue, and this is 100% merino wool. Oops. Also, I apologize for the lighting. It is 9 p.m. and so I'm having to use a bunch of artificial light, so if it looks weird, that's what happened. And then I held that with 1 strand of Fyberspates Cumulus, which is 74% baby Surrey alpaca and 26% mulberry silk. And that's what this guy looks like. And I feel like the fabric that it created is just gorgeous. This was a little, not difficult to work with, but it could be a little frustrating, like you kind of knit through a piece of fluff. But it honestly wasn't that bad. It just felt like knitting with a thicker mohair. And the reason that I went with the Surrey alpaca instead of a mohair is because I'm not really sure what my mom's tolerance is to mohair. And I wanted to knit her something that she'd be more likely to pick up if it's like not itchy. So that's why I went with this. So I will start by saying how much I spent on this sweater because the Fyberspates is kind of cheap, but you don't get a lot of yardage with each ball. So this is 25 grams is 150 meters, which that's actually a fair amount. But I ended up needing quite a few of these. So what I ordered was 10 of these. And I have 1 whole one left over and then a little bit of this one. So I needed 9, but I bought the 10, so whatever. I'll do the cost of what I bought. And then I bought 6 Knitting for Olive merinos. The Knitting for Olive merino was $10 each from the website that I ordered this from, which is Wool & Company. And I ordered 6 of these, and so the total for the merino came out to be $60. And I started the 6th ball. There's a lot of this left, but I had to break into it for the sweater. And then for the Fyberspates Cumulus, these were $8.60 each. So my grand total spend on this project is $146 USD. So that's kind of a pricey sweater. And that brings me to the point that I kind of wanted to make talking about the material, which is that I wanted to do a quick comparison between a similar alpaca lace weight yarn that I've used before. So this is what the Fyberspates and Knitting for Olive Merino look like together. I think it's gorgeous. Absolutely lovely. And now I would like to reintroduce you to my Stockholm sweater V-neck by PetiteKnit. And I knit this in 1 strand of Sandisgarn Sunday, which is a fingering weight 100% merino wool. It's very similar to the Knitting for Olive Merino. I feel like the only reason that I would gravitate towards the Knitting for Olive is because I like the way this is caked up better. Like I have the Sunday right here, and I prefer I prefer this style yarn ball. Anyway, but other than that, they're pretty much indistinguishable. And the yarn that I held with the Sunday is Lang Yarns Alpaca Super Light, which is 54% alpaca, 24% nylon, and 22% merino. And this is what that looks like. This is all I have left. And so whenever I was picking up the yarn to knit my Stockholm sweater V-neck, I looked at the Fyberspates Cumulus and I looked at the Alpaca Super Light, and ultimately what it came down to is cost. And I ended up going with the Super Light because it was a little bit cheaper. Did I write down? Oh yeah, this was $7.75 each. So like really not that much cheaper, but at the time it was really important to me. And so I went with the cheaper yarn, and I don't like it. So this is what the fabric looks like on this. Now granted, I have had this sweater for over a year at this point, and I have actually worn this a fair amount. However, this is pretty much what the sweater looked like the day I finished it. There is a little bit of pilling on the underarms, and that's how I know that the body of the sweater looks different from what pilling would look like. And so, oops. And so like, I don't know if you can see like a little bit of pilling on the underarm here, but then the body of the sweater just looks like the whole thing is pilled. And so really what I wanted to talk about was a quick comparison between the two yarns. So the Alpaca Super Light, the main difference is that this has nylon in it. Well, actually they're all completely different. So this just says alpaca as the 54%. And then this says it's baby Surrey alpaca for the Fyberspates. This has 24% nylon in it. This has no like artificial materials in it. And then this has 22% merino, whereas this has 26% silk. So 3 ingredients, alpaca, nylon, merino. 2 ingredients, baby Surrey alpaca and mulberry silk. And honestly, they look pretty different to me. Like, I'll hold this up. Like, this one looks fuzzier and not as consistent. And to me, that's pretty evident in the finished knit garment. And also, I think at the time I thought it was just the nylon, but also now that I'm realizing that all of the materials are different, like, I don't know, I can see why this like feels better. So anyway, I'm gonna hold up the two fabrics side by side, and if I don't do a good job with that, then I am going to insert some B-roll. But this is what the two fabrics look like side by side. And okay, maybe it's not doing a great job of picking it up on camera. They kind of look similar. But anyway, I promise the Fyberspates looks cleaner and more even. So that's a quick comparison on that. And then finally, for a third comparison, I just wanted to show you what Knitting for Olive Merino and Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair looks like. So these both have Knitting for Olive Merino in them, but this one's mohair and this one is the Fyberspates. So that is what these two look like. So I would say that they're pretty similar, honestly. Like, this is definitely more substantial. It's a thicker fabric. And to be honest, I should have gone up a needle size on this. I knit this on the pattern's recommended 4mm needles, and I really should have done a 4.5mm needle, but it's fine. This feels a little thinner, a little lighter. And that's also very evident when you look at the individual strands of the lace weight yarn, and I'll insert some B-roll of what all of those strands look like side by side, and you can really see. So to me, the Fyberspates Cumulus looks like double the thickness of the Soft Silk Mohair, but the Fyberspates Cumulus compared to the Lang Alpaca Superlight honestly looks very similar in the strand. And at first when I looked at the strand, like, of the Alpaca Superlight by itself last year when I finished the sweater, I kind of noticed that it looked very thick and thin. But then looking at the Fyberspates, it looks very similar. And so really now that I have hindsight and I've like worked with both of these materials, I'm thinking it just has to do with the composition of the yarn and less to do with how it's spun. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. This was something I've honestly been thinking about ever since I started this project, was kind of how it compared to my Stockholm sweater v-neck when I made this. And it just sucks whenever you put so much effort into a sweater and then it comes out looking pilled already. And so that's why I was really happy to find the Fyberspates, and it turned out, I think, much nicer. And I don't know, the material, I would argue that the Fyberspates is also softer. Like, this just feels like it's still soft. I can wear this next to skin, no problem whatsoever. But the Fyberspates feels a little silkier, and that could have everything to do with the silk content that's in it. So anyway, that felt a little all over the place, but my main point is I just wanted to give a quick comparison between those three lace weight yarns and what they feel like. So to recap, Fyberspates Cumulus, I love. It's super soft, close to skin. I have no problems touching this, and I personally think the fabric turned out amazing. So compare that to Lang Yarn's Alpaca Superlight, and the feeling is pretty similar. It feels a little more artificial, honestly, but that could just be in my head knowing that it's got nylon in it. And I would say that the yarn does not look good when it's finished. Like, I don't know if you can see that better on this side, but it just looks pilled and not good. And this is just what the yarn looked like. This is not regular pilling. This is just what the yarn looks like when it's finished. And then for a final comparison to Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair, or probably just mohair in general, the fabric is very consistent. Let me see. Yeah, the fabric is very consistent, very soft, but to me this is just a little bit itchy because I'm not really a mohair girl quite yet. But I do love the fabric and how it turned out. But it is also kind of exciting to think that I maybe found a fabric that is softer and or less scratchy, I would say, and also kind of looks similar. I am giving this away as a gift, but I'm really hoping that the fabric holds up over time and doesn't do that weird pilling thing like the Alpaca Superlight did. So we'll see. I don't know. This is not the last sweater that I'm gonna knit my mom, and so if this just becomes an around the house cozy sweater, then that's fine. But I do have high hopes for this, and I really do want it to be beautiful and something that she reaches for. And yeah, and I want it to look good for as long as possible. So anyway, that is my mom's Christmas gift. That is the Monday sweater by PetiteKnit, and I absolutely love it. And I completely forgot to say what colors this is in. The Knitting for Olive Merino is Dusty Dove Blue, and the Fyberspates Cumulus is 909 Water. And so they don't exactly match. Honestly, not even a little bit. They don't match at all. But online, that was the best I could find. But I think the fabric that they created is really pretty and is a good mixture of the two of them. The artificial lights aren't really helping, but I would say that the color of the sweater actually leans more heavily into the Fyberspates Cumulus. So keep that in mind if you end up knitting something with a combination of yarns and they don't exactly match. I think it'll lean towards the Cumulus because it's, you know, the fluffier yarn. But anyway, that is that. And yeah, I really love the sweater. I love how it turned out. And full disclosure, this will probably be the last gift knit that I ever do on 4mm needles. This took so long. But I will gladly knit 4.5mm and up for gift knits from here on out. And I still think that'll make a gorgeous sweater, or whatever it is. So anyway, that is my mom's Monday sweater. And now back to after Christmas, Laura. Okay, like I said, my mom really loved her sweater and I need to get a picture of her in it. And if I haven't gotten that yet, then I'll be sure to do so and see if I can throw it into this video. But anyway, I was so worried about the fit too, and it ended up fitting her perfectly. It's like ever so slightly oversized, but my mom appreciates a fit that's a little more relaxed. So hopefully she can wear it, and yeah, I don't know. I think she really liked it. So anyway, that is my only finished object for this video. And the reason that that is my only finished object is because I just frantically worked on that sweater the last couple weeks before Christmas. And I said I wouldn't do it. That's why I started it so early in the year. But then other things, you know, took priority and I ended up finishing my mom's sweater. I wove in the ends the eve of the eve, like on the 23rd. So it was cutting it a little close. But anyway, I have no other finished objects, but I'll go ahead and show you the progress that I've made on the couple of works in progress that you have seen before. And so the first work in progress is kind of cute, kind of tiny, and I've been working on it for a while and it's still not done. But these are my Hermione's Everyday Socks by Erica Lueder. And here's what they look like. Oh, I don't know if you can see that. So these are nearly done. Well, first of all, I knit these out of Malabrigo Ultimate Sock in the color 862 Piedras. I'm never going to be able to say that correctly. But I absolutely love this yarn. I picked it out purely, a little sticker on it. I picked it out purely because of the fall colors and the fall vibes, and I am absolutely loving it. And so I am pretty much ready to, I don't know, I've still got a little bit to go before I'm ready to do the toe. I have kind of long feet, but I have been knitting these two at a time, pulling from the same ball, like pulling from the outside and the inside. And honestly, that's working amazing for me because I'll have a finished pair of socks at the same time rather than just like one sock and then I get interested in a different yarn and then I go to knit that. So this has been really good. And I do wear my hand knit socks like pretty often actually, but for me, hand knitting socks is more about the knitting experience itself. And so I'm never really in a rush to finish these because, I mean, whether it's a hand knit pair of socks or a store-bought pair of socks, like I have socks to wear. So this isn't really out of necessity so much as it is just purely for fun. And this is also my like on the go knitting. And lately it seems like every time I've been on the go, I've been the one driving, which is not fun, by the way. I very much so enjoy just sitting in the passenger seat. So I haven't been getting a lot of on the go knitting lately. But at any rate, these are really fun to work on and I'm loving them. I don't know if I'll finish these before the end of the year. That would be really nice. But like I said, I'm not really in a rush. I am just here to knit on these whenever I need a tiny needle to knit on. So that is my first work in progress. Okay, my second work in progress is one that you have seen before and I am so excited about this. This is one that I don't want to push myself to like finish it before the end of the year because that is kind of an arbitrary goal, but I really do want to finish it. And that is my Solene cardigan by Moreca. Okay, now one quick thing on this before I get into the project itself. After I have said Solene way too many times, like I'm fully committed to this, I am coming to realize that the cardigan might actually be pronounced Solene. And that's because I've heard other people pronounce it that way. And it got me thinking about why I decided to just pronounce it Solene with absolutely no thought. And that's because when I was looking at pictures of this, I was imagining the type of woman that would wear this cardigan. And I was picturing her as being like very sophisticated and like, I don't know, put together. And for some reason in my mind, her name would be Solene as opposed to Solene. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I don't know. I'm committed to this mentally, so I'm really sorry if that's not the actual way to pronounce it. That's just who I imagine would wear this. I imagine Solene, who is a ballerina and is also like, I don't know, in New York or something, and her name would just be Solene. So there's that. I'm sorry if that's weird, and I'm sorry if it's actually pronounced Solene, but I'm just gonna commit to it. So anyway, this is my Solene cardigan by Moreca Knit, and I actually had already finished the first sleeve on this. I don't know if you watched my little vlog that I put out a couple weeks ago, but I did knit the entire first sleeve on the same needle size that I had knit the body. So the pattern recommends knitting this on 4.5mm needles, I want to say, but I'm knitting this in Drops Air, which recommends knitting on 5mm needles. And when I did my gauge swatch, the 5mm needles exactly hit gauge, so that's what I ended up going with. And so I knit the whole body flat on 5mm needles, and I love the fabric that it created. But then after I got done knitting the short rows on the sleeve, which are also knit flat, I stayed with the 5mm needles and knit the entire sleeve. But even as I was knitting it, I realized like my gauge got a lot tighter, and I was like, oh, maybe it'll block out. And so I just kind of kept going with it and tried to commit to it. But I set the sweater down for a few weeks because I was knitting on my mom's Christmas sweater. And then I finally picked this up on Christmas Day and decided to unravel the entire sleeve. And so I knit this yesterday. Well, you know, the short rows had already been done. And so I just knit the straight part of the sleeve. This is all I've knit yesterday. And then I'm hoping I can finish it today. And it is looking much better. I went up to 5.5mm needles for the knitting in the round on the sleeve. And honestly, another reason why I ended up knitting the whole sleeve on the 5mm instead of going up when I realized my gauge was tight is because I don't own 5.5mm metal needles. And whenever I gauge swatched on 4.5mm needles, which were also metal, which were wooden, it was a horrible knitting experience. Like the yarn kept catching on everything because it's a blown yarn, and so there's a lot of little bits that stick out, and it kept catching on my needles. My needles were also like kind of scratched a little bit, and so that's why I didn't even consider going up a needle size on the sleeves, is because I didn't want the knitting experience to be bad. But I ripped out, and now that I've knit all of this, I've realized it has not been bad at all, but that's because I don't think I have ever used these 5.5mm needles. Like, these are brand new, sleek, shiny, like all of the finish is still on there. And so that's why the experience has been so good. But I still know from knitting my gauge swatch on used needles that if they're even a little bit scratched, like wooden needles, then the knitting experience is not great with this yarn. But it worked out for this, that I've never used these before, so I'm able to go up and, yeah, knit, not on gauge, but, you know, knit better with these. You can still see, so after I had knit the short rows, I, you know, ripped back the whole thing, but I didn't have to redo the short rows, so I picked up like a couple rows after I had started the round, and so that was on the 5mm needles. And so I think you can kind of see where like those couple rows are, where it was a little tighter, but that'll block out. That's just like 2 rows, so that'll block out, and I think it looks good. So the only thing is I'm also starting to think that knitting flat makes the yarn fluffier. So here's what it looks like. Oops. Here's what it looks like knit flat. This is on the back of the body. And then compare that to the arm. I don't know if you'll be able to see both. Oh, that's not really helpful. Whatever, hopefully you can see that. But compare that to the arm. The arm isn't like quite as fluffy. And I wonder if that has to do with like knitting in the round versus knitting flat. But at any rate, the gauge looks closer to when I knit flat. And I'm just thinking it'll fluff up when I block it, hopefully. If not, it's not that noticeable. So yeah, that is my Solene cardigan, and I am knitting this, like I said, in Drops Air, and this is the color 29, which is also called Mauve, and I really love this. So that's my cardigan. I am so excited about how this is going to end up. I have tried this on a little bit like before when I had finished the sleeve, and I love the fit of the shoulder and where it sits, and it's only going to get better once I add the double knit button band. So that is that. I love it. And I think I'm going to try to finish it before the end of the year. And for no other reason than I want to include this in my everything I knit in 2024 video. So yeah, we'll see if that happens. We'll see. Okay, the next work in progress is one that you have not seen before unless you follow me on Instagram. And this is something that had been on my mind for several weeks. I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, this would be so cute, but I don't really have the time for this. But I cast it on anyway. And this is a very modified Northern Augustins number 4 by Anne-Sophie Velling. And I love it. Okay, so now the first modification that's really obvious is I did not include the like kind of drapey bits, scallop? I don't know, what would you call that? Anyway, I omitted that kind of piece from the sweater because I was trying to imagine how I could make this a little more wearable, and I thought that by taking out that part of the chart, this would, I don't know, make the sweater a little simpler, honestly, and therefore not so like, whoa, like whenever you wear it, because this, I did have this in mind as a Christmas knit, but I also do just want to be able to wear it as like kind of a statement piece. So I did omit the first part of the chart, and I added like 2 short rows to the back of the neck here, but this is my first like circular yoke sweater, and so I didn't want to get too crazy with the short rows, so I just did like 2 at the back of the neck, maybe 3, nothing crazy, but then I did actually add several right underneath the colorwork before I split for sleeves, and that was from, like, I didn't really follow a specific tutorial for that. I just kind of watched a couple different YouTube videos and saw what they recommended and then just kind of went for it. And it seems to be working out so far, but I haven't tried this on, but it seems to be working out and I'm gonna go with that. So anyway, this is what I have so far, and I'll go ahead and tell you about the yarn. So the yarn that I'm using for this is honestly a big reason why I went ahead and cast this on is because this was also one of those things that I didn't really want to go out of my way to buy yarn for, since it is like such a specific piece. So I ended up using some yarn that I had in stash, and the main color that I'm holding is Gepard Woolia, and this is the color 101, which I'm pretty sure is called cream. And this is a 100% merino wool. It's a worsted weight, and I actually originally bought this to make a Haraboji cardigan by Eggio Knit, and I knit like this much of the sleeve on that and then decided that this is not the yarn I wanted to use for that sweater, so I did go ahead and unravel that, and I'm repurposing the yarn to use in this sweater. And so that's a big part of why I was able to justify this, is because I already had the yarn for it. But I did have to buy a mohair to hold with this. So I don't know if you remember some videos where I acquired this yarn, but I was kind of complaining a little bit about how creamy the color cream turned out. It had a little bit of a yellow undertone. And so what I did is I bought a gray-ish mohair to hold with it to see if I could kind of cancel out some of that cream and make it a little more neutral. So this is the Knitting for Olive mohair in the color limestone, and it is a very gray white. Like, that's kind of crazy. Oops. So they definitely advertise this as a white, but it's very gray in person, like a very pale gray. So I held these two together to see if I could kind of cancel out some of that cream, and I honestly don't know if it did. Like, it's still very cream, but that's okay. That's really okay. I think that's another reason why I was good with making this sweater, is because it is a statement piece, and so I'm not really going to wear it all the time, and it's okay if it's not exactly like a color that looks great on me. So that is it for the main color, and then the contrast color that I've got here, This is yarn that I repurposed or used the scraps of from my cardigan number 9 from the beginning of this year. And, ooh, what is this called? And that is Blue Sky Fibers Woolstok Worsted. And this is in the color 1315 Redrock. And then I held that with Isager Silk Mohair in the color 32, which I think is just called Red. So this is 100% fine Highland wool, and then the mohair is 75% kid mohair and 25% silk. And this is what I had left over from my cardigan. I actually had an entire skein of this left over, and so I had plenty, and then almost an entire ball of the mohair, and this is still what I have left over after the color work. So I definitely had enough to do the little scallopy bits, but I still just didn't want to. And I love the colors and how they're turning out. Oh, I think it's just so sweet. So this has been honestly such a fun knit to work on during the Christmas season. I cast this on the night I finished my mom's sweater, so it was like a week before Christmas, and so I immediately put her sweater on to block, and then I cast this on and started working on it. And it's honestly been just so much fun to work on something festive during this festive period. And I mean, yeah, I was working on it knowing that I was never gonna finish it in time for Christmas, but I don't know, it's also like cool enough that I could wear this for Valentine's Day or like some other kind of niche fun event. And then also just knowing me, I will just wear this because I think it's pretty. Also, funny thing, my little sister and I went to the mall the Saturday before Christmas, and absolutely everywhere we looked, there were bows. Like, I did not realize how in bows were this season, but every single store we walked into, there were bows, like bows on sweaters, like bows to go in your hair, like bows on purses, like literally everywhere. So in style. So look at me being on trend with this, which was not intentional, but kind of fun to realize that. And yeah, this is my sweater. I'm hoping I can finish this before the end of January, which I think is definitely doable because it's so chunky. This is on 6mm needles. It is so chunky. I want to finish this before the end of January because I'm going to see Chicago at TPAC, which is the Tennessee Performing Arts Center, which is like the Nashville version of Broadway. And yeah, I was thinking this would be really cool to wear to that. I might change my mind, you know, as it comes time to actually get dressed for the event. But as of right now, I can picture myself wearing this because it'll be January, it'll be really cold. And so a nice cozy thick sweater to wear to the musical I think would be so much fun. So yeah, that is my Northern Augustins number 4. Oh, one other modification that I made is on the bows, one of these legs, this one, I made 1 stitch shorter. And that's because I was tired of knitting the color work and I wanted to cast off, or I wanted to split for sleeves. So I did knit that 1 stitch shorter, and because I was really tired of catching my floats, but honestly, I think it looks good. Like, I don't think it's really noticeable. And yeah, because it's already, like, it's still longer than the other leg, just by 1 less stitch. And I think it looks fine. So that's one other modification that I made. So that is that. And that's it for works in progress as well. I don't know, I kind of feel good only having 3 works in progress on the needles right now, 2 of which I feel like I'm very actively working on, so they're definitely going to get done soon-ish. And oh, let's see, I also started a Cumulus tee back in this summer, but that is completely hibernating at this point. Like, I don't want to work on a 3mm summer knit. I would rather work on a 6mm chunky wool knit right now. So that one is officially hibernating and you won't see that guy for a while probably. But yeah, those are all of my works in progress. Okay, now moving into the Christmas acquisition part of this. If you came here just to see my knitting and works in progress, thank you so much for watching, and I totally understand if you don't want to see acquisitions, so thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. But if you are here to see some acquisitions and you love talking about yarn and knitting things, then welcome. So my first acquisition is, I think, going to become a trend for Christmases in my family. So last year I asked my husband to get me some Knitting for Olive yarn, and this year was the same. So this year I wanted him to get me the Knitting for Olive Merino and the Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair, and both of these are in the color Unicorn Purple, which is so sweet. And you can also see it up here on my bookshelf. Yeah, so this is Unicorn Purple. Let me see if this will show up. Yeah, I think it's showing up really true to color. I would say that the mohair is more vibrant, which is kind of how it's showing up too. Like the mohair feels like it has a little more of the purple to it, which I love. So yeah, I got, how many of these did I get? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think I got 8 of each, which I don't remember asking him for 8. I feel like I only asked for 7 each. So maybe he got me extra, or maybe I asked for 8. Anyway, I sent him the link. Like, I put this in the cart and then sent him what I wanted. So I probably asked for 8. Anyway, I already know what I'm going to knit with this yarn. And this is something that I have been thinking about for all of 2024 as soon as this sweater came out. So the sweater that I want to knit with this yarn is called the Haru sweater by Knits by Summer. And this is a gorgeous all over cable knit sweater that's knit with a fingering and a mohair. And it's just stunning. She came out with her sample in this gorgeous soft yellow yarn, and for the longest time I thought I wanted it in yellow too, but I also kind of knew that like yellow is maybe not the best color on me. Like, I don't know if I would reach for it, and so I sat on it for a really long time. Like, I just thought about it, and honestly I think that's my favorite way to approach like more substantial complicated knits, is to really think about it for a while. And I thought about it and saw this color from Knitting for Olive and just immediately knew this is it. Like, I love purple. I love wearing purple. It's cool toned, and I feel like it matches the vibe of the Haru sweater because it's very springtime. This soft purple is just so, I don't know, it's just spring colors, and I'm very excited to cast this on. I don't think I'll cast this on maybe until like February or so, because I think it would be nice to have this to wear in the spring, but I'm not ready to cast it on quite yet because I'm still in the middle of my like chunky winter knits right now. So, but that is one major acquisition that I got from my husband. Okay, the second yarn acquisition is also Knitting for Olive, also from my husband, or from me, I picked it out. And this is Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino in the color Poppy Blue. And this is what it looks like. Oh, it's so pretty. And you can see it right there. Also, one thing I was kind of worried about with these shelves is like leaving my yarn exposed like this and not in plastic bags. Oh, and so I bought a bunch of cedar. Yeah, and so cedar, you can't really see that, cedar is supposed to be like a natural or like an alternative to mothballs, and it smells really good. And so I have like a couple bags and then also like some little disc pieces that came in this set. And so I've just been tucking it behind my yarn like that and hoping that that's fine. But I also do plan on using this fairly soon. But anyway, this is Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino in the color Poppy Blue. And first of all, Poppy Blue is not exactly what I thought it would be. Online, it looked, dare I say, a little more saturated, but it's still gorgeous. You know, like I did open it though, and I was a little bit like, huh, that's maybe not what I was expecting, but also it has been a very long time since I looked at this yarn, like online, so this could be the same picture. I don't know. I'll put up a picture of like the Knitting for Olive website and what it looks like, but to me I think I was expecting something a little more saturated, but I don't know, as I'm looking at it in the viewfinder, this is kind of what I was expecting. So maybe it's just in person. Anyway, it's gorgeous. I love it. And I don't really wear like vibrant blues like this, but kind of with the same vibe of this light blue. I feel like life is too short to not wear colors that I think are gorgeous, and yeah. I think it'd be fun to wear. Like, I'm not really trying to impress anybody with this. This is just me and what I enjoy wearing. So yeah. And I don't have a specific sweater in mind for this. I got 10 of these. I don't have a very specific sweater in mind, but I kind of have an idea of what I want. So the last time I used Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino, I knit an Ingrid sweater by PetiteKnit, and that was like an all over textured knit, and it was fun. But as I was knitting, I was also thinking like, wow, I think I would really like the Heavy Merino in just a stockinette. And so I'm thinking that I want a drop shoulder stockinette sweater, but specifically I also want a type of drop shoulder that has like the line on the back of the shoulder where you can like see the increases and it's not just a join, if you know what I mean. And so the sweater that I kind of have in mind for this is the sweater number 23 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and it's got like that line on the shoulder that kind of shows like the shape of the drop shoulder. And yeah, so I think that would be a really sweet sweater to pair with this yarn. And I'm not completely sold on it yet, but that is kind of the vibe that I'm going for, is something a little bit more oversized, casual, and just very wearable. Like, since it is going to be such a vibrant sweater, I want the silhouette of it to be fairly classic. So anyway, that is my second and last yarn acquisition that I got for Christmas. And I don't know, I like this trend. I like this Knitting for Olive trend of getting gifts from my husband. Like, I don't often order directly from the Knitting for Olive website because of the international shipping. But I figure like one big purchase, like one time a year, is not so bad. So that is that. Okay, the next acquisitions are not yarn related, but they are still knitting related. And these are things that I am so excited about. So, my mother-in-law, my husband's mom, still gets gifts for us, which is so sweet. And she is also like a boy mom, and so she's like, just send me your list. Like, I'm not gonna get you something you don't want. Like, send me the list of things that you want. And so I sent her a tiny list, and on that list was the large Cherries bag by the Knitting Swan. So this is a large project bag, and look how sweet this is. Oh, I love it so much. And this is exactly what I picked out. Like I said, this is the one I want, and that's what she got for me. And then look, it's got like the little Knitting Swan tag. Ugh, it's just so sweet. It's so precious. If you need a size comparison, it's sitting on my shoulder right now. Compare that to my head. So yeah, this is a major acquisition I'm super excited about. And so I kind of knew this was coming, but then when I opened the box, it had another project bag in it, and it's like a little tote bag, and this one's got like a bunch of flowers on it. And it's so sweet, and it's even got like a little skirt here at the bottom, which is adorable, like a little pleated skirt. I'm not really sure if this serves as a function or if it's just aesthetic, but I love it. You know, I was like, actually, I had something in here, and I set it on the table, and the skirt kind of like held the bag up a little bit, so that might be what it's for. It might be so the bag can like stand upright. But anyway, it's so sweet. It's got pockets on the inside. Well, let's see, how many? Yeah, it's got like 4 big pockets on the inside that I'm doing a horrible job of showing you. And this one also has pockets on the inside. But it's just so cute. I've already used this already to take a knitting project to my parents' house on Christmas Day to work on that. And yeah, I'm so excited. This was such a lovely gift. This was so sweet and unexpected, and I'm gonna use these all the time. So that is another Christmas acquisition. Okay, the last acquisition that I have to share from Christmas is the new Kutova Kika knitting book called Knits to Wear. And again, this is something I picked out and like sent my husband the link to. I actually had to tell him where to buy this because he couldn't figure it out, but that's okay. I knew it was coming and I was really excited about it. And so this is the book, Knits to Wear by Kutova Kika. And yeah, I love it. I don't really have plans to knit anything from this immediately, but I did go through and I bookmarked some of my favorite knits, which honestly, like after looking at all these, I realized is most of them, which is hilarious. But I'll kind of flash the first few that are in here that I want. And so the first one is called Urban Romance, which is this gorgeous raglan sweater that I think would be so sweet. Honestly, love the sample color she knitted in. The next one is called My Favorite Story, which is another gorgeous textured sweater. And yeah, I don't say, she has like her husband modeling this sweater in here too, which I think is so fun. Like honestly, the photography in this book is amazing, and just kind of how she chooses to present the sweaters I think is so smart and so lovely. And then also one that I really love is a sweater called Coffee Run, which is just your like it's just a basic raglan, but there's something about it that just seems like so well thought out and really sweet. So yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna knit. And then I've got a couple of other bookmarked, but I realize it's like basically the whole book that I'm interested in, which is amazing. Like it's super nice to, I don't know, find more than one pattern in a book that I like. And I kind of knew the patterns that were in here, but I also just mostly wanted to have this to not only support like one of my favorite knitting like content creators, but also just to have this as kind of like a piece of art. Like, I don't know if you guys feel the same way about collecting knitting books. Like this is my first physical knitting book that I've bought, but I love the idea of it as being kind of like an art piece, like maybe a coffee table book or something like that, because it is just so beautiful and the photography in it is so well thought out and so lovely. So that is my knitting book that I got by Kutova Kika. And that is all of the knitting acquisitions that I have for this video. That was kind of a lot. I don't usually have a lot of acquisitions, so this was kind of a unique episode, but it was so much fun to open all of these for Christmas, and I can't wait to start working with all of them. So anyway, that's all I have for this knitting podcast. Thank you so much for watching, and please tell me what you got for Christmas. I love geeking out. I love hearing about all the knitting things, because honestly, we are way too easy on our family members now. Like having a hobby that you can very specifically say, like, I want this thing, we're so easy to gift for, right? Like if you feel the same way, or I hope you feel the same way, because yeah, like buying for other people who don't have a hyper fixation on a hobby, it's kind of hard. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you've had a great holiday season, and you know, going into the new year, I hope your new year starts out really well, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.